would like to say that we understand that Yehoshua, who most of the viewing audience know as Jesus Christ, in the beginning was in the flesh, in the spirit rather. And we understand first and foremost that when we look at the beginning, when I mean the beginning, I mean the very creation, we see a role that Yehoshua played in. First, let's go to, in the New Testament, let's go to John, book of John.
Okay.
And we'll begin with John, the first chapter, and John, first verse. First chapter, first verse. Well, the principle of what we're beginning to what we're trying to convey here, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with El, and the Word was El. Or in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It says he was in the beginning with God, and it says all things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. Basically what I want to do, I'm not going to dissect that all the way, but the basis for what I'm trying to give you here is that now we can now go back to what we call the Old Testament, and we can go to the very first verse in the first chapter of the book of Genesis. It says, in the beginning, it says, God, or El, created the heavens and the earth. All right, now, we just read that in John, in the New Testament, concerning an event that took place in the Old Testament. So when we see the first sign of Yehoshua in the Old Testament, it is a situation whereas he was actually doing the work. So we see that the heavens and the earth were the products of his hands, so to speak, because he laid the very foundations of the world here in the Old Testament, so to speak. So when we first see a sign of him in what we call the Old Testament, we see right here in the very first chapter and the very first verse of the book of Genesis. So when we look at all of the creation, day 1, day 2, day 3, through day 7, we see that these things are the results of the Son putting these things together at the orders of the Father. So we can also read in Hebrews as well as Colossians that actually tells us the same thing that we just read in John. So so the first time we see any indication of Yehoshua in the Old Testament, we see it here in this essence and in this principle we see it. Oh?
Okay, very good.
Shalom.
Shalom, El.
But let's turn to Matthew, the 5th chapter, and let's look at a couple of things that...
Matthew 5, El.
Right, Matthew 5.
Okay.
We're going to start at verse 17. That Yehoshua himself said.
Okay.
Because people seem to misunderstand this.
Okay.
But that's because they didn't understand in the beginning.
Okay.
It says, do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. It says, for assuredly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, one jot or one tittle will by no means pass from the law till all is fulfilled. Then it says, whosoever therefore breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Then it says, for I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven.
Okay.
Now, turn to Luke, the 24th chapter.
Okay. Very good.
Luke 24.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to read at verse 44.
Mm-hmm.
It says, this is him speaking again to the disciples.
Okay.
It says, then he said to them, these are the words which I spoke to you while I was still with you,
Mm-hmm.
that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the law of Moses and the prophets, and the Psalms concerning me.
Okay.
Stop. Just as our topic began, we're talking about Yehoshua in the law, in the prophet,
Okay.
and in the Psalms.
Okay.
Okay.
See, he had to explain this to his disciples because they didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Just as most of you do not understand today. Because where I went first in Matthew, you seem to think that he's doing away with the law.
Right.
When really the explanation is he was explaining what was written, the things that were written about him had, hey, here I am. I'm fulfilling these things that were written about me.
Right.
Very good.
Right.
Very
Right.
good.
And you don't understand that.
Okay.
But let's go backwards.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where Elder went to Genesis, I want to go to Deuteronomy,
Very good.
the 18th chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Moshe had brought the children of Israel out,
Mm-hmm.
and he was getting ready to pass on. But a prophecy was being made here. And in most Bibles it says a new prophet like Moshe.
Right.
Okay.
Verse 15, 18 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
It says, Yahweh your El will raise up for you a prophet like me from your midst, from your brethren. Him you shall hear according to all your desires
Okay.
of Yahweh your El in Horeb in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Yahweh my El, nor let me see the great fire anymore, lest I die. Now, we know that when the children of Israel heard the Father, it scared them.
Right.
They were terrified. So they told Moshe, you go and talk to him.
Right.
And everything that he tell you, you come back and tell us,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll do and be obedient unto.
Okay.
Well, most people don't understand this covenant. This is the covenant that they were talking about.
Okay.
But Moshe was telling them that in the future, one would come
Right.
Mm-hmm.
with the same authority, with the same spirit that he had.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Then it says, him you will hear. But I look out and I see that we really don't hear him.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'd like to go back to Genesis real quick. Genesis, first chapter. Just to
Okay.
echo on something what El Shaddai said. Genesis 1 and 26. It says, and Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. So when we read that, one would say to himself, who is our? Who is us? So we go back to John. And we see John 1:1. It explains that the Messiah himself was one of the hour that was with Yah in the beginning. We go to John 17, the Messiah said, Father, restore to me the glory that I once had with you when I was with you in the beginning. That was once before. So we see that all over this book that we know that the Messiah was always in what's called the law and in the prophets. And I like to go to 1 Corinthians real quick. Something that Brother Shaul said. 1 Corinthians, the 10th chapter.
Okay.
1 Corinthians 10 and pages want to stick on it here. Okay, here we go. Just one verse real quick. 1 Corinthians 10 and 4. It says, well, I'll start at 2. It says, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat. Now this is talking about the presence of the Messiah was with the children of Israel when they exodus from the land of Egypt. And this is Brother Shaul talking about how the Messiah was with them all along. Verse 3, it said, all did eat the same spiritual meat. He's talking about the manna. In verse 4, it says, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was the Messiah. So we see that the Messiah, the King of Israel, was with Israel in the beginning. Now I talked about in John how he said, Father, restore me back to the state that I was in before I came down as a man. So we know that the Messiah was with us in spirit as the King of Israel, and he also came as an Israelite through the tribe of Judah. I just wanted to just make that note, just bring that out. Anywhere else y'all want to go?
Well, let's look at Exodus. We can look at the book of Exodus. And we can briefly note the 12th chapter. And in this 12th chapter, we see here where Pesach, or what most people in the viewing audience would know and understand what is to be as Passover, is instituted here. Passover being instituted here, we can also see a form of Yehoshua being brought out. Now, if we look at 12 and 1. 12:1. Now Yah spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be your beginning of months. It said, it shall be the first month of the year to you. Speaking to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th month of this month, every man shall take for himself a lamb.
Okay.
So, when it comes down to Passover, we are to take a lamb.
Right.
Okay, on the 10th day of that month. All right. Now, this lamb here is a symbolical form of Yehoshua. So what we see, the events surrounding the lamb, we also see in the future, because Yehoshua is obviously not born in the flesh at this point in time.
Right.
We see the events surrounding Yehoshua. So Yehoshua is a living representation or living symbol of this lamb. And this lamb is also a living symbol of who he was, in that he was the sacrificial lamb to come in the future. Because it says, a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. It says, if the household is too small for the lamb, it says, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of persons, according to each man's need.
Mm-hmm.
You shall make your count for the lamb. Okay, now, we see that this lamb is taken on the 10th day
Okay.
of the first month. Now, in the future, from this point in time, when Yah institutes the Passover, there's something significant about this lamb. There's something significant about the 10th day, and there's something significant about the lamb being in the presence of the people. All right, it also says here, it says, your lamb shall be without blemish. Okay, that's important because there's a connection here between the lamb and being without a blemish, and Yehoshua being a man in the future, in the flesh, without a blemish. In other words, without error, without sin, without something wrong, without a defect.
Mm-hmm.
It says, without blemish, a male, and we know Yehoshua was a male. Like this lamb is a male, Yehoshua was a male. It says, a male of the first year. You may take it from the sheep or from the goat. It says, now you shall keep it from the lamb until the 14th day. To the 14th day, and that 14th day has a significant meaning in respect to Yehoshua in the future of the first month. The 14th day of the same month.
Okay.
It says, then the whole assembly that the lamb was amongst on the 10th, the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight. That also has a significant meaning in the future when Yehoshua comes to us in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
So this right here has a lot of symbolism, and we know now that we are on the other side of Yehoshua, we see the events that took place during his life.
Right.
We see the connection between his life and here with this lamb here, which was also a sacrificial lamb, at the point in time of us coming out of Egypt in the desert.
Okay.
So there is a lot of meaning here. You want to break that down, Ella? In terms of the significance of what the 14th day, what happened on the 14th day, or?
No, I don't want to go there yet.
Okay.
I want to go somewhere else.
Okay.
I want to go to Isaiah.
Isaiah? All right.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, beautiful.
We're going to go to the 7th chapter.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Now, remember I read in Deuteronomy where it talked about one would be raised from among his brethren.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But here, a question the father told Ahaz, who was the king, to ask. Well, let's read it.
Mm-hmm.
It says, 10th verse. It says, moreover, Yahweh spoke again to Ahaz, saying, ask a sign for yourself from Yahweh your El. Ask it either in the depths or in the heights above.
Mm-hmm.
But Ahaz said, I will not ask, nor will I test Yahweh. Now, but Yahweh gave him a sign anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And we find that it's a lot of people who don't believe this sign.
Okay.
This sign was called the virgin birth.
Mm-hmm.
Now remember what Yehoshua said back in Matthew and in Luke.
Mm-hmm.
The things that were written about him,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
how he came to fulfill it.
Okay.
Well, if we turn to Matthew,
Mm-hmm.
if we go back to Matthew, the 1st chapter, and it talks about his lineage, and then it describes his birth, along with his cousin's birth,
Right.
who was Yochanan, or John, who you call the Baptist.
Right.
Now, his birth, it says his birth was on this wise.
Right.
He was born of the Spirit.
Right.
That's what is called the virgin birth.
Okay.
But also, turn to Isaiah. Let's go to the 9th chapter.
Well, there are 9. Right.
And we're going to start at verse 1. It says, nevertheless, the gloom will not be upon her who is distressed, as when at first he lightly esteemed the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. These are provinces of Israel.
Okay.
And afterward more heavy oppressed her by the way of the sea beyond the Jordan, in Galilee of the Gentiles. The people who walk in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them a light has shone. You have multiplied the nations and increased its joy. They rejoice before you, according to the joy of harvest, as men rejoice when they divide the spoils. Then it says, for you have broken the yoke of his burden and the staff of his shoulders, the rod of his oppressor, as in the days of Midian. For every warrior's sandals from the noisy battle and the garments rolled in blood will be used for burning and fuel for the fire. Then it says, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty El, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. Upon the throne of David and over his kingdom, to order it and establish it with judgment and justice from that time forward, even forever. The zeal of Yahuwah Sabaoth will perform this. Now, again, we're talking about Yehoshua.
Okay.
In the prophets.
This is in the prophets.
Absolutely.
But we're going to go somewhere where most people don't go.
Okay.
Remember it said in the law, in the prophets,
Right.
and in the Psalms.
Right.
Turn to Psalms 22.
Psalm. 22nd.
The 22nd Psalm.
Okay.
Now, we know that when Yehoshua was on the stake,
Right.
he said something. And most people think that he was saying this thinking that the Father had betrayed him. But let's read the first verse of the 22nd chapter of Psalms and listen to what it says. It says, my El, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me and from the words of my groaning? Now, doesn't that sound familiar to you? Because remember what it said. All things had to be fulfilled that were written about him
Right.
in the law,
Right.
the Psalms, and the prophets.
Absolutely.
So he had to say those words
Yeah, he did.
while he was on the stake.
Right.
And this is a verification of that. So all he was doing was fulfilling the things that were being said, that were written already.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But most people have never read this 22nd Psalm.
Right.
So they have never heard that when he said, it says, my God, why have you forsaken me?
So he had to say that.
He had to say it because it had to be done.
It had to come to pass.
That's right.
Absolutely. Let's continue to stay in the prophets. I want to read something.
Go ahead.
I want to bounce from Isaiah to Zechariah.
Go right ahead.
Go with me to Isaiah 11. And let's just look at the first verse here. It says, and there shall come forth a root out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. Now, that's talking about the Messiah. Most people would agree.
Right.
That's David's father.
Right.
And we know that Yahushua is the son of David.
Right.
He's the son of David. So we all agree that the branch is the Messiah. Okay, now go with me to Zechariah. Let's go to Zechariah. And this is, I'm reading from the Living Bible. And the third chapter. And I'm going to start at verse 1. And it says, then the angel showed me in my vision Yahushua, Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of Yah. And Satan was there too, at the angel's right hand, accusing Joshua of many things. Now, quickly, I just want to explain that the name Joshua would be an English version of the name Yahushua. If you would look in the Strong's Concordance, look the word Joshua up, it would take you and it would show you that the name Joshua is Yahushua, and it means the salvation of Yah. Now, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read the name Joshua in its proper name to give you an understanding what's being said here or written here by the prophet Zechariah. Verse 2. And Yahweh said to Satan, I reject your accusation, Satan. Yes, I, Yahweh, for I have decided to be merciful to Jerusalem. I rebuke you. I have decreed mercy to Yahushua and his nation. They are like a burning stick pulled out of fire. Yahushua's clothes was filthy as he stood before the angel of Yah. Then the angel said to the other standing there, remove his filthy clothing. And turned to Yahushua, he said, see, I have taken away your sins, and now I am giving you this fine clothes. Now we know this is a Yahushua of a time before, because we know the Messiah never sinned. Right. So this is talking about a priest, someone with the same name as the Messiah in the past. Okay, verse 6. Then I said, please, could he also have a clean turban on his head? So they gave him one. Then the angel of Yah spoke very calmly to Yahushua and said, Yahweh of hosts declares, if you will follow the path I set for you and do all I tell you to do, then I will put you in charge of my temple to keep it holy. And I will let you walk in and out of my presence with these angels. Listen to me, O Yahushua the high priest, and all your other priests. You are illustrated of the good things to come. You are an example of the good things to come. Don't you see Yahushua represents my servant, the branch. Right. So we see that this Yahushua in the past is a precursor of the branch, which was Yahushua that was to come. So we see the presence of the Messiah in the prophets. It's right here. And just to confirm that, look at chapter 6, verse 9. Same book, Zechariah. Right. It says, in another message, Yahweh said, he said, Eldai, Tobiah, and Jedediah will bring gifts of silver and gold from the Israelite exile in Babylon. It says, the same day they arrived, met them at the house of Josiah, the son of Zephaniah, where they will stay, accept their gifts and make from them a crown from the silver and gold. It says, then put the crown on the head of Yahushua, the high priest, Tell him that Yaquavho says, you represent the man who will come, whose name is the branch. Right. That is the Living Bible version. He represents the branch who is to come. When the Father put the crown on Yahushua, the high priest's head. Now we know that Yahushua is the high priest in the order of Melchizedek. And this Yahushua was a high priest. He was a confirmation or a pre-confirmation of what was to come. So that's in the prophets. I just wanted to show the viewing audience that. Anything you want to touch on, Elder Shaddai?
Well, let's look at Isaiah. We see that Isaiah is a very special prophet because Yah truly blessed Isaiah to give him a wide and vast amount of knowledge concerning Yahushua.
Yes, he did.
And every prophet of Israel was not privy to that.
Not so.
Because Yah truly has certain plans for certain people. And when we look at Yahushua in the New Testament, so to speak, oftentimes Yahushua quoted various prophets. And the one that he quoted the most was Isaiah.
Okay.
Because Isaiah was, again, privy to a lot of information that the Father had for him. Let's look at the 53rd chapter of Ziyahu.
Okay.
And we can see that Yah opened up Isaiah's mind and gave him a true indication of what was to come in the future. Because, again, we see that the law was here. Yahushua was not here like that at the time. But we see, and we've heard, many of us have heard what Shaul has said, and that the law was just a shadow of things to come.
Right.
And we know he was specifically referring to Yahushua at that time.
Okay.
Because the righteousness of Yah moved from the law to Yahushua. Right. So let's see what Isaiah or Isaiah had to say about Yahushua. 53:1, it says, who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of Yah been revealed? Okay, now, it says, for he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, as a root out of dry ground. He has no form or comeliness, and when we see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. So, Isaiah is kind of giving us an explanation of a physical appearance of Yahushua. He wasn't, didn't have an appearance that would stand out. He wasn't a dashing, handsome man, so to speak. There was nothing about him that stood out, so to speak. Right. But he has an idea of what he would look like in the flesh. All right, it says, outside of him being a plain-looking individual, so to speak, it says, there again, there is no beauty that we should desire him, for he is despised and rejected by men. Okay, we know that Yahushua was rejected, because in the book of John, it says that he came to his own, and his own received him not.
Right.
So, I mean, what more of a rejection could you ever receive? What more damaging rejection could a man receive? When you go to your home, and you are rejected by your home. So it says, he is despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. Of course, we know that he was acquainted with grief because of the things that he had to endure for us.
That's correct.
And we hid, and as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we did not esteem him. Surely he has borne our grief and carried our sorrow. Yahushua bare our grief. He bore our sorrows. he took on the responsibility of all the things that man has done since Adam, all on his shoulders. It says, again, surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by Yah, and afflicted. What that's simply saying here is, our people, when Yehoshua was on the stados or on the tree, or some people might say cross, our people looked at him and gazed at him while he was there, and we thought that our opinions of him was that he was damaged. There was something wrong with him. He was accursed by God. Right. Because the scripture says, the law says that he who hanging from a tree is cursed. Right. So we esteem him as being stricken and cursed by the Father himself.
And mocked him.
Exactly. And they mocked him in all kinds of negative things. There was nothing positive about what our people thought of him as they walked by and they looked and saw him hanging from that tree.
Right.
But he was wounded for our transgressions. For our sins, he was what? He was damaged. He was hurt. It says he was bruised for our iniquities. Same thing. He says the chastisement for our peace was upon him.
Okay.
And his stripes and by his stripes we are healed. Okay. All right. So he took upon the things that we did, the sins and the atrocious iniquities that we had gone through and the things that we were doing. He took all of this on him. We can skip by all of this and we can go right here to let's go to verse 10.
Okay.
So yet it pleased Yah to bruise him. He has put him to grief. It says, when you make his soul an offering for our sin. Wow. Now this is heavy here. This is kind of amazingly great in that Isaiah had such a vision to see that he was to be that sacrificial lamb.
Right.
His soul was an offering for our sin or for sin. Okay? And right here we can skip down here, we can say, look at verse 12. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul unto death. We know that he died. Yeah. And here Isaiah is telling you that he died, and it said, and he was numbered with the transgressors. And we know that this is simply referring to criminals that died along his side.
Right.
One on the right side, one on the left. And all we're really saying here is that we can see how Yehoshua is talked about in what we call the Old Testament, time and time again.
Right.
And it's amazing how this brother Isaiah had this great vision, because Yah gave it to him, of a future event that was to take place. And not only did he see it, he understood what he looked like physically. He understood the very principle and the nature of his coming. Right. So we can see Yehoshua all throughout this Old Testament. Absolutely. I mean, and there's so many other ways that we can find him, and other places that we can find him in this book.
Okay. If you consider yourself to believe in the scriptures, what we call the Torah, the law, if you say that you believe this and you don't see the Messiah in here, you're spiritually blind. There's no way that you can't see the Messiah in this book.
Correct.
There's no way. You want to touch on something else, Aaron?
No, I was just going to say we could go to Micah, the 5th chapter.
Which is one of my favorites.
Right.
Yeah.
When we were speaking about earlier, when it talked about the virgin birth.
Okay.
It even
talked about
exactly.
It's all over the place.
Right. So let's read this.
Okay, very good.
Micah, the 5th chapter, starting at verse 1. It says, now gather yourselves in troops, O daughters of truth. He has laid siege against us. They will strike the judge of Israel with a rod on the cheek.
Okay.
Now we know who the judge of Israel is.
Mm-hmm.
We know that when Yehoshua comes back, he's
Right.
coming back to do what?
Make war.
Judge and make war.
Very good, Elder.
But this is him in the flesh when he's on the stake.
Okay.
It says, but you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are little among the thousands of Yehudah, yet out of you shall come forth to me the one to be ruler in Israel, whose going forth are from of old, from everlasting. So that means that he's been talked about from the beginning.
From the beginning.
And we know because we've been reading some of it.
In the beginning.
That's right. Then it says, therefore he shall give them up until the time that she who is in labor has given birth. It says, then the remnant of his brethren shall return to the children of Israel, and he shall stand and feed his flock in the strength of Yahweh, in the majesty of the name of Yahweh his El, and they shall abide, for now he shall be great to the end of the earth, and this one shall be peace. Now we know that. We know what we're talking about.
The Prince of Peace.
That's it.
Yep, that is the Messiah.
That's it.
Make no mistake about it.
Right.
Absolutely. Remember when I was in Corinthians 10:4, and I talked about the Messiah being with the children of Israel, pillar of cloud by day, pillar of fire by night. I like to go to, actually I like to go to Exodus and read that real quick, just to confirm that, just give the viewing audience something to look at. Go with me to Exodus 13 and 21. 13 and verse 21. And it reads, and Yahweh, Yahushua, the representative of Yahweh, went before them by day in the pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in the pillar of fire to give them light to go by day and night. Now this is when our people were exodusing out of the land of Egypt, and it was about to go into the wilderness. Now, it's very important that we all know the Messiah's name. And when we know the Messiah's name, we can recognize him all over the book. Now, the Messiah's name is Yahushua, and the meaning of his name is the salvation of Yah. Now, let me read something in Exodus 14, verses 13. 14, verses 13. This is talking about that same incident. It says, and Moshe said unto the people, fear ye not, and stand still, and see the salvation of Yah. Stand still. Now this is when the Sea of Reeds, or what we know is to be the Red Sea, was split. And Moses was taking the children of Israel through the sea, fleeing from Pharaoh and his men. And Moses say, stand back and see the salvation of Yah. Or stand back and see Yahushua do his thing. And that's exactly what happened. So we see that what Shaul said in Corinthians, he just won Babylon. That was the spirit of Yah, which is Yahushua. In the beginning was what? The spirit.
Wow.
And the spirit was with Yah.
Yeah.
So we went to John, boom, boom, boom. And I just wanted to highlight that and show the viewing audience where they could, you know, look at, read this on your own, in your own spare time, and you will see and you will know that the Messiah is in the law, the prophets, and the Psalms, because it's all concerning his life, even the feast days.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I believe it also says that that the Spirit of Yah was what was hovering over the waters.
Right. Absolutely.
Because the Spirit of Yah was about to do his thing again, in that it was about to do the what? Do the creation thing.
Right.
Correct.
So we see that. And when we even go back to Micah, Micah 5:2.
Okay.
I mean, Elder read it, and we see it, but I don't think a lot of people understand
Right.
or don't see exactly what's going on here. It says, and I'm just going to reiterate this,
Okay.
5:2, it says, but you, Bethlehem Ephratah, Bethlehem Ephratah, because at that point in time, there was more than one Bethlehem.
That's right.
Okay.
You see, not only was there more than one Bethlehem, okay, Bethlehem Ephratah,
Yep.
a specific Bethlehem, was the place of Yehoshua's birth.
Cain.
It was.
And not only that, Bethlehem Ephratah was only a small place or small area or city, you want to give it,
Okay.
that was among all of the cities in Yehuda or Judah, it says right here.
Okay.
It says, though you are little among the thousands of Yehuda. That's saying you are little amongst the various cities in this place called, or in the kingdom of Yehuda.
Okay.
It was just a small place. So not only did he make a prediction, he made a precise prediction in where he was born. In a very small, minute place. In all of the different places of Yehuda, he pinpointed that place.
Yeah.
And it says, yet out of you who? Yehuda. It says, shall come forth to me the one to be the ruler in Israel. Of course, he was to be the ruler of Israel because he is a part of the what? Of the Davidic covenant, in that he would be the king after David, to have to receive a kingdom forever.
Right.
So it says the one to be ruler in Israel is that whose goings-ons are from old. Whose goings-on are from old. In other words, his existence was from a very long time ago.
Okay.
In other words, he was actually here. Whether you refer to the Spirit
Right.
or any other way.
Right.
His going on were from old. It says from everlasting.
Right.
Yeah.
Everlasting means before the world was.
Absolutely.
And it also means in the future to always be. So it's everlasting here is a word that goes backwards and goes forward. And just to verify this, then we can go right to John here. Let's look at John
Okay.
in the 17th chapter. And this is where Yehoshua is praying. And beginning in verse 1, it says, Yehoshua spoke these words, lifted up his eyes to heaven, or Sumayim, and said, Father, the hour has come to glorify your Son, that your Son also may glorify you, as you have given him authority over all flesh, that he should give eternal life to as many as you have given him.
Right.
And this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true El, and Yehoshua, whom you have sent.
Okay.
I have glorified you on the earth. I have finished the work which you have given me to do. And now, O Father, glorify me together with yourself,
Okay.
with the glory which I had with you before the world was.
Very good.
So we see how he himself tells you later on that he was here before the world was, or before even the creation was. So Micah said over here that he was before the world was. So Micah knew what he was talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
He knew the Son was here before the world was. From everlasting, he says. Same thing. So we can, we can see how important that is, and see how pinpoint this brother Michael was, how he could pinpoint this thing to be so exact and precise in the very existence of Yehoshua, even before he came here in the flesh.
Yes, he was.
See, most people don't know that the Messiah was an apostle.
No, they don't know that.
And when you say that, people get shocked and get offended because they don't understand what apostle means.
No.
Yeah, but go ahead, Elder Aharon.
No, I was just going to say turn to Zechariah, the 9th chapter.
Zechariah.
And I want to read verse 9 to you. See, don't this sound familiar to you?
Okay. Okay.
Again, verifying that he was who he said he was. Because if you understand Yehoshua, all that he was trying to do, his whole existence to the children of Israel, was to bring them back to the Father. But at the same time, he was verifying who he was.
Right, absolutely.
It says, rejoice greatly. Verse 9. It says, rejoice greatly, O daughters of Zion. Shout, O daughters of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you. He is just and having salvation. Then it says, lowly and riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey. And I'm sure that you read this. If you read what you call the New Testament, when he told his disciples, he said, go, you will see what? A donkey and a colt. Say, bring them to me. He said, tell the man it is for the master. And he'll give it to you.
Mark 11.
That's
right.
11. This is where this prophecy is written.
Right.
If you never read it, see, when we tell you, or when the Messiah tells you that he's all through this book, he's through this book.
Oh, in absolute.
Believe me.
Yes, he is.
He is not
Hosanna,
No,
Hosanna.
he's not.
That's right.
And it's right here.
Absolutely.
All you have to do is read.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you'll find it.
Absolutely. And here, what you just went over right there, that has everything to do with what we read earlier when we were in, I believe it was Exodus, the 12th chapter. We were talking about Passover being instituted.
Right.
And we're going to talk about this on another program.
Right.
But the thing is that it has everything to do with the symbolism when we see that Israel was told to go out and they were to fetch a lamb on the 10th day. Because it was on the 10th day that they were told to go and get this colt.
That's right.
And he rolled this colt into Jerusalem.
Right.
That was on the 10th day.
Right.
And again,
talked about Hosanna.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Mark 11, 1 through 11. And that's what that is. I mean, it's you know, and I agree with what Obiyahu was saying. If you really can't see that, I don't know what the problem is. I mean, it's like this immense thing that's standing before you. You know, they say sometimes they say you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
And I mean, you must not be able to see the forest for the trees. You know, because I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, most people say that the New Testament is Greek and Greek influence. But you know what? They couldn't invent that if they tried.
No, they couldn't.
They couldn't even put this story together. What they tried to do is hide it and change it.
That's
but
what
they couldn't.
Did. Yeah.
But they couldn't, because the Father watches over his word to see that it comes to pass.
Yeah.
And no man could have put this together. This is not the white man's book. This is the word of Yah.
That's it.
Absolutely. It has never, this book has never been proven wrong.
No.
Never. And we challenge anybody to dig in this book and then look at the news, the newspaper. Everything has been pre-told.
Yeah.
It's been pre-told.
Told the end at the beginning.
Absolutely. Bereshit.
But beyond that, people of all what they call religions have taken parts of the Father's word.
Cain. Absolutely. Every religion.
And created something other than what the Father has laid down.
Right.
And they tried to improve upon it, but they can't.
No. That's where a cult starts.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's about. See, we deal straight out this book.
Right.
You can come behind us and read it for yourself.
Absolutely.
See, now, you'll say, well, it's people that done went to school and they don't get that understanding, but that's because the Father didn't put his word in their mouth.
Right.
See, that's what you must understand about the children of Israel.
Okay.
This is not brag,
No.
This is fact. This
Right.
is what the Father said. He would put his word in our mouth,
Very
and it
good.
wouldn't leave
Very
out of
good.
our mouth or out of our descendants' mouth.
Okay.
When Elijah was running from Jezebel,
Mm-hmm.
and he told the Father, he said, they done killed all your prophets, and now they seek my life. And he said, don't worry about it. He said, I got 7,000 that have not bowed the knee to Baal.
Right.
See? So don't think that we are the only one
Oh, no.
that's got this understanding.
Right.
There are others out here with the same understanding.
Oh, in the absolute.
You know, it's just that you seeing us and you're not seeing them.
Right. Absolutely.
That's absolutely correct. I can't. My appeal is to those who say or do not believe that Yehoshua is in this part of the book. We believe in the full volume of the book. When I say full volume of the book, I'm really referring to what is called the Old Testament and the New Testament. And I really don't like saying Old Testament and New Testament like that, because it's really all one book.
Right.
It's one book that consists of many books and letters, or many parts, and that could be a book or a letter. But it's really one book, and it tells basically one story, really.
Absolutely.
And it's about basically one people and about one El or one God, so to speak.